Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And everybody, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Play along in the comments down below. Are you so confident you're going to buy everybody around? So I'll just take a beer or, oh God, give me a shot. I need a shot right now. All right. And I am going to order some more hats, but they are available. I still got a few more of them. And let's start with one of those trade targets that Philk was mentioning in the A block. And Detroit's Tyler Bertuzzi. Right now, 2 goals, 4 assists on the season, 6 points, 18 games. Last season, 30 goals, 32 assists, 62 points. And he's a UFA at the end of the year, $4.75 million cap hit. Mr. Filkowski, the New York Rangers should go and get Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yes, they should definitely not go get Todd Bertuzzi. But
No.
Tyler would be a great pickup. Detroit's kind of fallen down in the standings a bit. They're only 10 points behind Washington right now. Washington have 4 games in hand on Washington. So if Detroit got hot, they could technically get back into the race. But if they don't do so sooner than later, I would imagine this team would become sellers. You're hearing names like Jake Wallman get thrown around. And Jake Wallman's really progressed pretty well for Detroit, having a real good year, getting a lot of big minutes for them. But Tyler Bertuzzi can play both the left and right wings, and that would be a real good acquisition for the Rangers. No, I don't think he has a cousin named Justin, Sean. So I think Marc is good there because there's no Justin Bertuzzi that we know of. But there was a tag Bertuzzi as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna go round here.
All right. Once again, Phil going with the round. Sorry, there was a break on that one, Phil. I thought you actually finished. Anthony.
No, my fault. Anth, I think you muted.
Hold on,
I muted myself probably because of the dog before.
Yeah.
I'll go with a round. Tyler Bertuzzi plays. He can play the game with a little bit of an edge, as you saw last year. His numbers, were pretty good, 62 points. This year he's been okay, but I think he would bring some bite to the Rangers lineup, and he could score, help support some of that. The guys who are the primary scoring guys like Panarin, Zibanejad, Trocheck, etc. My only thing is, one, Steve Yzerman very rarely loses a trade, so it'll be a little weary trading with him. And again, he's making 4.75 this year. I would imagine on his next contract he might get, even a raise to just $5 million. Still a raise, small raise, but a raise nonetheless. And again, the Rangers cap between Miller, Lafreniere, Hedl. I don't know if they'd be able to retain him. So Bertuzzi as a pure rental, depending what the cost is, yeah, I think it would be a good fit. But I would just be, I wouldn't give up too much for him because of that, knowing that you probably can't keep him.
I didn't even think about this trade until Phil put it in the bar talk. So let's make it a hat trick first, because I'm buying around as well. And I am not only buying around, I will go drive to Detroit to go get him to come here. He would be a perfect either addition for like one of the holes at right wing that they have. And then you also have he would be a depth forward. The guy is physical, and now he doesn't have to worry about the vaccine stuff. It is absolutely great with what they could do with Tyler Bertuzzi. Go get him. Just do it. Just absolutely do it.
Cost is, though?
I know that is a good question on the cost, but that's what they need to do.
Detroit can, especially if Detroit retains on him. The best part about him is that he's making only $4.75 million against the cap. So, but if Detroit retains on him and you get him for 2.375 or whatever that is, or whatever the half would be, you can get more players, and because the Rangers have the deadline space to go get other players on top of that. So if you go get a Bertuzzi and then a Mott and then someone else on top of that, the Rangers could make several moves with a guy like him as opposed to Tarasenko, because Tarasenko at half is still what 3.7 something million at that point, 3.8 million.
He's capped at $7.5 million. So
$7.5 million.
Bertuzzi isn't an RFA. He's a UFA. DP.
No, I said he's a UFA.
No, I'm saying DP.
Oh, no, in the comment.
Oh, okay.
Comment. Yeah, and you're right. The only thing with retention, though, you got to remember, if a team retains, that usually increase the cost a little bit on what you have to give up if you get a team to retain. So either you got to pick your poison, I suppose.
Yeah, and even if they don't retain on him, it's still prorated at the deadline, 4.75. Yeah. It's really not a whole lot to add. So I think he makes a perfect target for the Rangers.
And by the way, Ranger fans, the Rangers at the deadline, 5.439 trade deadline available in millions, by the way. So we're going to be talking a lot about deadline cap space in this. But first, let's shift gears over to the Islanders. A guy that Anthony loves to talk about, Mr. Ilya Sorokin, 17, 16, and 4. Yet another shutout last night. How many does that make for him? I didn't put it on there. Tied with 5?
For the season?
Yeah.
5, yeah.
5. Okay. You can see the goals against. You can see the save percentage. All in the top 5 of the NHL. And Anthony Larocco. New York Islanders, Ilya Sorokin deserves to be an MVP finalist.
Well, let me clarify one thing. Connor McDavid's the winner of this trophy, no matter what happens. But the point is, does he deserve to be a finalist? And if the Islanders make the playoffs, I mean, it's hard to make a case where he shouldn't get some consideration, because the definition of most valuable player is the player who's most valuable to his team. And if you take Ilya Sorokin off the New York Islanders, they, they got good pieces, Barzell, and, they just added Horvat and Nelson. But still, you take Sorokin off the Islanders, and the Islanders are not a playoff team. It's as simple as that. So you look at it as the definition of the trophy. He's extremely valuable to the Islanders, by far their most valuable player. You remove him, they're not a playoff team. If they make it, he's going to deserve 90% of the credit for it. He's been outstanding. Second in save percentage, tied first in shutouts. He powers the New York Islanders. He makes them go. So McDavid's the winner, but if the Islanders get in, he's got to get some votes as a second or third place finish.
Phil.
All right. So are we going with he deserves to get some votes or actually be a finalist then?
I clarified to say finalist. He's got to be in the last 3.
I'm going to have to say I'm torn between Beer and Shot, honestly. I'm going to have to lean more towards Shot here just because, and it's not a knock at him. It's really not. But I honestly, obviously, one of those spots is going to McDavid. Doesn't matter if he wins it or if he's one of the 2 runner-ups. One of those spots is McDavid. Jack Hughes right now has got to have one of those spots. And as much as that pains me to say it, Jack Hughes has got to have one of those spots. Now, the other spot, do you want to give that to someone like Jason Robertson? Matthew Tkachuk has a real good argument for it. I'm going to probably say Beer, just because I think somewhere within the next 4 or 5 players that I could mention, Sorokin's name would probably come up. But I can't get on board with a round for this one. Definitely not, just because I think there are guys that are just having better years that would deserve more recognition. Again, not a knock on what Sorokin's doing, but if Tage Thompson manages to get the Buffalo Sabres to the playoffs, Tage Thompson deserves to outright win it. I don't, unless McDavid scores 150 points. Then at that point you got it, because then Edmonton's a cellar dweller if they miss the playoffs, even with McDavid scoring 150 points. So
there's a great argument on everything about whether or not on NHL Network or wherever you can find it, YouTube, is McDavid still the MVP anyway? First off, we said at the preseason, Connor McDavid automatically is nominated for the Hart Trophy every single year. Now, as far as Sorokin goes, his record is what's going to prevent him from really being a finalist. Is he really important in our opinion? Of course he is.
All right, here's the other argument that I have. I'm sorry, but I just thought of this, and I got to say it. How can you give Sorokin MVP votes over the guy that's probably going to win it in Linus Ullmark? The Vezina, that is.
The Vezina, yes. And
I
that's
don't know how you can do that.
Goaltending is the most important position, and you take Linus Ullmark off Boston, they still got loads and loads of talent. You take Ilya Sorokin off the Islanders.
I don't know if you take away a goaltender that's putting up video game numbers from that team. I mean, they make the playoffs, but
they're one of the stingiest teams in the league. I think you could put I guess the point I make, Linus Ullmark, he's never come close to doing this before in his career. All of a sudden, he's casually in the Boston Bruins, and now he's putting up video game numbers. He plays behind a really, really good team. Really good team.
I agree with you.
And to go further into that, Jeremy Swayman, 12-3-4, 2.34 goals against, 0.914 save percentage. So
listen, and I get it, and I've said that before, but I mean, more than likely he's going to win the Vezina. So if there's any goalie that's going to get the recognition for to be a Hart finalist, it's going to be Ullmark over Sorokin, whether we like it or not.
By the way, can I just throw this out there? Oh, first off, by the way, I have to say shot. But what irritates me sometimes is when they talk about the NHL awards, guys. Everybody turns around and says, oh, no, you can't give a goalie an MVP. They got their own award. Yeah, they do. So do the skaters. You got the Art Ross. You got the Rocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything. Norris Trophy. They got that one too for defensemen. Everybody's covered. If you're the most valuable player, you're the most valuable player. There you go. So, all right. Let's actually stick in the Atlantic Division, guys, because here's the Atlantic Division standings. Boston with 83 points. They only have 51 games played. Games played is going to be important because the Toronto Maple Leafs, 70 points, 52 games. Tampa with 50 games, but 66 points. So the Toronto Maple Leafs are firmly in second place in the Atlantic. Phil, I'm going to you first.
I don't know about that. I'm gonna say beer just because I had this weird feeling, and I said this all year about I'm going to shot. I'm going to go shot.
Right.
No, I'm going to go shot because Tampa just seems like they're that team that's going to coast. Like they remind me of like the 2000 Yankees right now. Not that I'm saying that Tampa's going to win it all, but they're that team that's going to like just get to the playoffs. They're going to get to the trade deadline. They're going to make an acquisition, and that team's just going to come right back up like a bat out of hell. Yes, I'm going to quote Meatloaf there, but they're going to come like a bat out of hell, and they're just going to emerge, and they're going to be one of those teams where we're like, oh, crap, we overlooked these guys, and now they're back. They're here again. And you've got Andrei Vasilevsky and Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos and Anthony Cirelli and Victor Hedman. And you know what? I really just think they're probably going to go get a defenseman and a depth forward, and they're going to be right back where they were previously. And Toronto is just going to somebody get ready to do the Heimlich because Toronto's going to choke again.
Anthony.
Shot. I mean, you're talking they got a 4-point lead on Tampa. How could you say that's firm? I mean, it's 4 points. That can vanish in,
the two games that are in hand.
So yeah, no, it's a shot. I mean, they're definitely a playoff team, but they can easily fall to 3 and they can flip flop. So
yeah,
this is a layup for me.
Well, also you talked about Pittsburgh before in the A block, guys. You can't count out Pittsburgh. You can never count out Tampa. I'm going to go with a shot on this one as well. I think Anthony, you alluded to this earlier, saying that you can't say anybody's firmly in place. Yeah, all right, I agree with that. Especially, well, other than Boston and Carolina and the Devils, everybody else they're all going to be jockeying for position all over the place. So Tampa, watch out for them, especially if they make another move. But then again, their first game out of the break, they got torched 7-1 by the Panthers. So that's still unbelievable.
And then Matt Chuck decided to go off.
Yeah. All right. So on to plenty of trade deadline talk, guys, because there's a lot of it coming. Because Patrick Kane is discussing his future with the Chicago Blackhawks. Here's one team that he would be perfect for. The Carolina Hurricanes are the perfect team to land Patrick Kane. And guys, I'm going to go first on this one because I'm buying around on this. I said over and over again, Patrick Kane, because when it comes to Carolina, I got their cap deadline here, $10.1 million. They can actually get Patrick Kane under contract and under the cap, and maybe don't have to give as much as everyone else. It's a first place team. It would be someplace that he'd want to go. I think it fits. I think it's better than New York in every way, of Rangers or Islanders, and it's better than Colorado. So I'll throw this out there for you, Anthony. What do you think? Patrick Kane to the Canes. And also, by the way, that could actually make him Big Daddy Kane. Also, that could also work for that.
I mean, yeah, in the sense that they're definitely a playoff team. They're definitely a contender. So in that aspect, it's a perfect. You think it's a perfect match, but I'm gonna go beer. I'm not so sure. Kane has the Hurricanes on his short list of teams he would go to. I mean, last year when the really speculation started to come out on Kane, I never heard of the Hurricanes being as a team involved. So could that have changed, as this season happened and seeing how the Canes are really good? Absolutely. But yeah, and like I said, he really would help them. I don't know if they're a fit for if Kane, wants to necessarily go there. I think if he has to give, if he only gives the Blackhawks a list of 3 teams, I'm not so sure the Hurricanes are in that top 3.
All right, Phil.
I'm going to say beer, but I'm going to say it for actually a different reason. So Carolina has all the cap space in the world to re-sign him. They're losing a lot of guys in this offseason. Jordan Stahl is no longer going to be making $6 million against the cap. He is a free agent. Jesper Fast, his $2 million comes off. Paul Stastny, 1.5. Derek Stepan, $750K. Calvin DeHaan, $850K. And you got Dylan Coghlan, you got to re-sign. Then you have both Freddie Anderson and Antti Raanta come off the books, as well as Max Pacioretty, who was on LTIR. Jake Gardner's $4.05 million on LTIR, and Andre Kash's $1.5 million. So like you're losing a lot of guys, but you also got to fill in a lot of roster spots. Kane makes sense in that regard. They need right wing depth. It makes sense in that regard.
Could help their power play too.
Power play, yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me is Kane makes a ton of sense on the power play, and their power play has struggled, and their power play was abysmal against the Rangers in the postseason last year in that series. So where it doesn't make sense is I wonder how well Patrick Kane would actually mesh with their system and the way that they play. And Rod Brindamore ain't going to take Patrick Kane's crap. Remember, this is the guy that slugged Eric Lindros. So Rod Brindamore is a tough SOB. He's not going to take anything from anyone. That is a well-respected man, well-respected coach. I don't know if Kane fits into that structure. I don't know if he can play that type of game. I know he still can skate, but is he going to be able to get himself up to play that type of hockey down the stretch? Otherwise, it makes a lot of sense. I wonder about that fit. I do also wonder if he would want to go to Carolina. Like Anthony said, I don't know what teams are on his list or not. But I'm going to say beer just because I think stylistically it may not be a fit because he likes to slow the play down a little more. And I wonder how that works with the other players on his team that are more like run and gun north and south, speed, smother.
Yeah, as Pete said in there, not sure if he's fast enough to be a Kane. Guys, there's 2 games on the NHL slate for tonight. One of them is Rangers Vancouver. The other one is on TNT. It is Dallas hosting the Minnesota Wild. And currently, the Wild right now are tied for 3rd place with the Colorado Avalanche for 58 points. And they have a ton of deadline cap space. This is the most cap space of any team in the playoffs right now. Only Buffalo rivals them in any way for playoff contention. Buffalo's got all the cap space in the world if they wanted to. They have 80 million in deadline cap space. All right. So anyway, the Minnesota Wild should go for it at the deadline, Philk.
They don't have a great prospect pool. Like, they've got some pieces and they've got some guys that are already at the NHL level, like Matt Boldy is young. They've got some guys, but to me, they don't. And by going forward, you mean like all in, like really
load it up.
I'm gonna have to say shot here, just because. And listen, like, if you don't win it this year, the next like couple of years for this team are going to be absolute hell with those buyouts from Suter and Parise. They go up, and that's going to be a big problem for them. I just, if I were them, I know this sends a bad message to the players because it sounds like you're giving up on the team, but I would look to maybe start recouping assets, because to me, they're a flawed team. They need a lot of depth, and in order for them to win, like, and even get to like a conference finals, they're going to have to make a ton of moves and give up a ton of assets to do so. And to me, that just does not make sense to that team. So I'm going shot here.
Anthony.
I'm gonna go with a beer. I don't think they should mortgage the future, but I think they can make maybe, a smaller move, whether, it's traded for Barbashev or adding a depth scorer like JVR, something like that shouldn't cost that much, that will help them a little bit. I don't think they're going to be in the running for, Vladimir Tarasenko. Like, the Blues aren't going to trade him to a rival in the same division.
No.
Obviously, they're not in Patrick Kane. I don't think they're going to have the assets to land Timo Meier. But again, I do think, a smaller move like that could still help them. They do have some good pieces to give them a chance to win a round or so. Kaprizov and Boldy, those 2 really good players, Zuccarello. So they got some good players on their team. If they added another guy like one of the 2 I just mentioned, I think it would give them a little bit of a fighting shot.
I'm actually going to go beer too. This is my question, because I looked at them and went, damn, they got all this cap space. And you look at those. Phil mentioned the cap hits. I'm sorry, the beer is still going. The cap hits, it's $12 million, $12.7 million this season. It goes up 14.7 for the next 2 years. And you have a 40-year-old goaltender in net, or however old Marc-Andre Fleury is right now. And you kind of have to try something, but you can't go Timo Meier because you're not going to be able to retain him next year. It's just not going to happen.
I don't see how they do it.
No, they kind of got to look forward and do the Gene Hackman from the Hoosiers and say, my team's on the floor. You can make some small moves. It's not going to be that great. And I wanted to say all in for these guys, but can't push those chips all in. Hey, Anthony, one of the worst goaltending tandems possibly of any playoff team has got to be the one that played at the UBS last night. And that was the Seattle Kraken. Man, Martin Jones, that record is he's almost the opposite of Sorokin. You look at that record, 23-8-3. Wow, that's a great record. How's the rest of his numbers? 2.86 and a save percentage of 0.894. Philip Grubauer, not much better, 5-8-2. Goals against 3.02 and 0.897 for his save percentage. The only way you can get numbers worse than that is if you're actually trying to dodge the puck. Anthony, Seattle needs to shore up their goaltending at the deadline.
Yeah, round. They're actually a solid team. In January, I think they were like 11-4. Yet you look at their two goalies, and they're both, as you just showed, sub 900 save percentages. So, yeah, they're getting by with that during the regular season, but come playoff time, that's not going to work. Problem is how many goalies are out there available. You hear Thatcher Demko's name. I mean, I guess that could be a possibility. But other than that, I don't know how many goalies are available that will move the needle as much as they need. So I don't know how much more realistic options they have. But if I were them, I would definitely see what they could do to try to shore that position up. Because again, come playoff time, it's not gonna work anymore if they're delivering those type of performances.
Phil.
Yeah, I gotta go with our round here. This is a layup. I don't know how you turn around and you go into the playoffs with two goaltenders with sub 900 save percentages. And again, I continue to ask the question: when does this anomaly end? Because this is an anomaly, having somebody with a record like that, with goals against and save percentages like that. This is not 1985, so those numbers are not good. Like if this was 1985, a 285 goals against and an 894 save percentage would be great. You would be over the moon if that was like Grant Fuhr posting that. But no, this is not good. They have to go get somebody. And I mean, you got to wonder, like, really, who's available. And again, I'll go back to Anaheim and I'll say Seattle should probably pony up for someone like John Gibson, because if Seattle goes and gets John Gibson, that gives them a formidable goaltender. And the way that they play makes them a pain in the neck to play against come playoff time. They attack, they skate, they play hard, they're chippy. That's the team that's not going to have to really worry about playoff hockey, because they already play that style of play. So, but they need the goaltender.
I'm going to go beer on this. And the only reason why is the answer is yes. It's around. It's easy. If they can't get John Gibson, they're not getting Thatcher Demko. There's no way. Not with that rivalry that they're trying to start up there. But here's a list of the pending UFA free agent goaltenders. Jonathan Quick, no way they're getting him. Semyon Varlamov, staying put. I'm going to skip Ben Bishop. Frederick Anderson is staying where he is. Jonathan Bernier, he's on a milk carton. And then you have Cam Talbot. Cam Talbot isn't going to move the needle more than these guys will. Sorry, Ranger fans that remember one season where he was good. But
two.
I mean, and one season in Edmonton. Cam Talbot's cashed in on less work than Jeremy Lin has. So you're looking around. Alex Nedeljkovic, who was on waivers. I mean, Tristan Jarry, McKenzie. There's not much there until you get the James Reimer. And even James Reimer, you're really going to go with James Reimer and say that's an upgrade over Martin Jones, the guy who I believe took James Reimer's job in San Jose when he was there. Oh, no, it was the other way around. I'm sorry. James Reimer took his job eventually. But when they went to the Stanley Cup final and he was a backup. By the way, we talked about it before, everybody, that we're going to be doing a trade deadline special on March 3rd. Make sure you're checking it out. We'll try to do some giveaways. And, of course, hours and hours of hockey talk. Like I said, Phil and I did it last year. Absolute blast. So, got to ask you guys for this one. A big name not being talked about is going to get moved at the deadline. Phil, I'll start with you.
Wow. Okay. Now, this is just a bar talk question, or I have to name a name?
Well, first we'll go around, and then we'll name a name on this.
I'm going to say beer. And the reason why I'm going to say beer is because I think there are a lot of teams that are in like cap trouble right now. And that's why we haven't seen a lot of moves early. So the Horvat trade was really like a kind of like a sounding of the bell to ring in trade deadline season. So I'm not sure if teams are going to have enough availability and time to make a deal for a big name like that. So I'm only going to say beer in regards to this. If I had to pick a name, JT Miller.
Wow.
I just think that there's so much going on in Vancouver, and he's just so unhappy right now. I wonder, and I'm not saying I'm advocating this, but I wonder if Chris Drury would go to Vancouver and ask what the asking price would be on JT Miller, because he's played here before. He can play center or wing. He's probably better suited to be a winger. Yeah, I know, but I just wonder if they would do it. And he's got a reasonable deal for what he is going forward for a while. You just wonder what they would have to give up to get him. And if it involves Alexi Lafreniere, I would imagine that Drury would turn away at that point. But that's just a name that I could definitely see being moved.
Anthony.
Beer. Usually at the deadline, there's, sometimes there's a trade where, catches people by surprise about a guy moving they didn't expect. So, in lieu of that, I wonder about Alex DeBrincat in Ottawa. He's due. He's an RFA. He's still due for that pretty big raise, I would say. Ottawa has to make a decision whether or not, they got Stützle's new deal kicking in next year. They have to make a decision on going forward if they want to pay him, upwards of $8 million. And if they trade him, they could get back probably what they paid, a first-round pick, and then some. So I wonder if Ottawa would shop DeBrincat around the deadline and see what they can get for him.
That's a guy I would give up Lafreniere for if I'm the Rangers.
Now, all right, I'm going to go beer for me because, yes, there's a mysterious guy that could always be in there. And I'm also happy that a lot of the it's the trade deadline is so far away. Ivan Provorov was being thrown out there because of the recent headlines.
Yeah.
I did look at a guy on the Flyers. I thought about maybe Travis Konecny might be a guy that might try to move, but that's not going to happen. Or maybe Joel Farabee, who's signed for a long time.
Yeah,
Konechny's only got 3 more years at 5.5 for Konecny, but it's it's hard to say. I think Thatcher Demko would be the biggest surprise to me. He looks like a franchise goaltender, and one injury doomed the Vancouver Canucks season, and Bruce Boudreau, and everything else. So it's
why is that a surprise? I mean, his name has been out there.
I know. I know his name's been out there. Like, there was another guy I thought his name was out there, like Connor Garland, but that's because they're throwing everybody's name out there for Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of some guys from Anaheim, or even like the Coyotes. Everybody's available right now because I do think Shane Gostisbehere is gone. I think Jacob Chikrin is gone.
Available.
There's really and
Gostisbehere is hurt. I think he might be coming back around the deadline.
Sorry, what, Anthony?
Gostisbehere is hurt. I think he's supposed to come back around the deadline itself. So I don't know if that affects him being moved.
He'll get moved. He's a UFA at the end of the year, and he's got value. So, because I say this all the time, teams look for depth defensemen, depth forwards at the deadline, because rarely you can find a star out of nowhere. And the other one is they'll look for a specialty guy like a power play quarterback, and he would fit that category. So, all right, guys, we're gonna get to news and notes and everything. Everybody, just once again, that was Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink, and hopefully we'll have a sponsor for this next week. But it's always a great time, everybody. And now let's do some notes. What do you guys got?
Please like and subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of great hockey content and an entertaining interactive podcast. So check us out and our library of videos.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.